So we'll go ahead and open the meeting. It's 7:30 p.m. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 7th, 2025 meeting of the Littleton Conservation Commission. Got a quorum in attendance. And tonight we have our new associate member, Jim, in the corner here. Welcome aboard, Jim.
Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Andrew. Nice to see everyone.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Perfect. And if you have any questions or need anything tonight, just say the word.
Thank you. I'll be mainly in listen mode, I expect.
Perfect. So we'll go ahead and get started. We have approval of meeting minutes, September 23rd, 2025, our last meeting. Does anybody have any additions or corrections?
Not for me.
No.
All right. I just had a couple of very minor ones. Under the enforcement order ratification for 359 King Street, in the second sentence, it says Dwight Long, owner, submitted a letter stating Mr. Cataldo will represent Mr. Long. So I just changed that to say will represent him in his absence, because he's basically referring to himself as Mr. Long. And then about halfway through the paragraph, it says between the drafting of the enforcement order, if we could just capitalize that E and that O. And then the very final thing I had was under the emergency beaver permit. It says the Littleton Water Department in conjunction with the Board of Health. It should just have a comma after Water Department and then after Board of Health. And we're good to go. Perfect. With those amendments, would anybody perhaps like to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I so move.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We'll do a roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Foltz, aye.
Kyle?
Maxfield, aye.
Michael?
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl?
Carl Melberg, aye.
And myself, aye. It is unanimous. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. All right. So moving right into our administrative discussion for the evening, we'll begin with our discussion of the enforcement order for 3059 King Street. Do we have anybody here tonight to speak to this?
Thank you. My name is Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting. We're the wetlands consultants that have been hired by Dwight Long to address the enforcement order, and also we're also doing some other work on his property. Hopefully, we can give the commission a quick update and just get some clarification on timelines for the restoration that the commission noted in their enforcement order. We have been hired and have done a full site delineation of the wetland resource areas, and we are waiting for a pending site survey, which will show the wetland locations and also confirm where the buffer zone is, and give us a firm number on the trees that are in the buffer zone to guide us through the mitigation. Also give us better specs on how to best plant back what was lost in terms of some trees. We did hope that we could get a little bit of a reprieve on submitting a restoration plan, because we do plan on filing a notice of intent for the property, and so it felt appropriate to have the tree cutting be just placed under an after the fact notice of intent along with other work. That way it would be under a file number and in a formal record with the commission. So we do have a general count of what trees were in the buffer zone, roughly about 36 stumps, give or take, based on field measurements, pacing the buffer zone out off the delineation. But we do want to have a survey plan to show the commission where all those trees are, and then give you a table along with the planned tree plantings that we'd be putting back, along with some potential discussion about where those should be best placed to kind of balance out your no disturb zone, while also potentially opening up more upland meadow habitat to the fields, which the owner is looking to kind of enhance, particularly with pollinator habitat.
Did I hear, Mark, 36 trees were cut down?
That's our current count. Again, it's based on a step off the buffer zone off the wetland line that we hung. So it may be less than, depending on the pacing of the buffer zone that was set up in the field, just to give us approximation of where the buffer zone currently lands. And that is also approximately counting some areas that there were some stumps that were ground. So we did have those as well counted as kind of a tree that was lost in that location. So that's currently the theory. And again, some of those are in the outer buffer zone, so they may have been approvable to be removed. But at the same time, there was nothing without a permit. So we understand that there's enforcement. We do understand that we do need to do a restoration plan, and we plan to submit a notice of intent for that after the fact work, and that would include the planting plan to restore trees that were cut.
Thank you, Mark. So you're essentially proposing delaying a path
Yeah, we're
forward?
asking, we're because we have a survey plan, we're waiting on a survey plan that may take a few weeks to come through. We could definitely like slowly release, get you information, and it would slowly pile up, or we could kind of have a more enclosed package for that. I do suspect we'll have a notice of intent ready in the next 6 to 8 weeks, because there's some engineering also involved. So I think overall, and we're also discussing kind of some outlining some basic maintenance, long-term maintenance of the fields, to give the commission just kind of understanding of how it's been maintained in the past and work through how it's being maintained in the future, particularly so we can avoid enforcement orders in the future. That's one thing the homeowner wants to make sure is that he understands his boundaries, what he can maintain, particularly because it has been an agricultural field for decades, going back hundreds of years, and it's been definitely heavily agriculture in the past, since the 60s based on aerials. So that was our hope. So I think, I guess the question is the commission really eager to see a restoration and trees planted this fall, or is it okay if we waited till spring for planting? The applicant, again, does acknowledge the enforcement order and does intend to resolve that.
How do the commissioners feel about that proposal?
I think Mark said exactly what I was thinking at the end there, that what the best case scenario, we see a restoration plan in the middle of October. It's not going to get put into place this fall with the weather changing, right? We're missing your planting season. The caveat to that is the enforcement order is going to stay in place, right? We can't lift the enforcement order until there's something in place, right? So as long as the owner is comfortable with having that enforcement order, kind of lingering there, I already assumed that not much would be happening until the spring on this property anyway.
Yeah, all work has ceased. There's no other activities happening in the buffer zone, in the fields. Basically, there's nothing really much else to do out there in terms of typical field maintenance for the year. So everything's just going to be kind of let quiet. We did have one question that was the logs that were the trees that were cut down. The logs are still in the field in a pile, and I'm concerned about that creating a dead zone in the fields because of the pile. And so we were wondering if we could remove the logs from the field. Stumps are going to stay in place. We're not touching the stumps. Not going to do any more work. We're just basically removing the logs, so that way we don't create any dead zones of grass and vegetation in the fields. That's one thing that, as I was walking the site, I was thinking we should probably pull them out, just because otherwise, when we pull them out, we wait 6 months, a year, 6 months, 3 months, it's eventually going to kill the grass underneath it, and then we're going to have bare areas. And I'd rather just leave it as stable ground, because it is stable right now.
That goes with the assumption that you don't create dead areas with your removal efforts, right? I mean, it has to be a low mechanical removal of some sort where you're not.
Yeah, they did go in there and cut these trees up and process them without rutting or anything else. These fields are pretty dry. We're in a drought right now, so the soils are very dry right now. There has been farm equipment going through these fields, even on areas. You can see the old farming tracks that went through from time to time. So I'm pretty comfortable right now because it's so dry that we can get out pretty quickly. And I definitely will make sure that we don't, if there is anything that's loose, that we'll make sure we see that. I know there's one spot that I did talk to Dwight Long today about getting some a wildflower buffer zone seed mix into an area that was a little bit kind of raked up along one of the banks, just because it looks like it is not as stable as it should be. And we were talking about getting some wildlife seed mix down to help stabilize some other areas in the fields, just to make sure that we keep things stable while we follow the notice of intent.
So are the logs currently scattered across the property?
They're currently in a pile. Let me see if I can actually show you.
How big are we talking about? The logs, I mean.
There's this pile right here on the screen now. So the diameters are from probably 6 to 18 inches.
Yeah, that's a good size.
They're mostly red maples. They definitely show a lot of like evidence of decay. There definitely were a lot of leaners and weird angled trees out there. That some of them were definitely not like nice mature crowning red maples. And some of the stumps definitely showed some decay as well. But that's the pile we'd like to get that off because if they're not just scattered. If they're individual, I think we'd be a little better off. But because they're all clustered, it's better. I think it's better just to come and grab them all out and get them out of there, so that way we don't have a dead zone of grass in that location. And this is just out. This is outside. It's all on the buffer zone. This orange marker here on the left side of the screen is approximately the buffer zone based on pacing.
So the logs are inside the buffer zone.
We're pretty confident they are in the buffer zone. Yes. And here's another shot looking the other direction.
My feeling is just to leave them. I don't think they're gonna, even if they're not gonna create a dead zone as soon as you lift them up. I think vegetation will start growing. Because we don't have a restoration plan, and this would be part of that.
It would be, yeah.
We wouldn't plan on using them unless we were going to put them along the edge of the field because this is an agricultural field that was pastured and mowed. So leaving logs on the ground would not be our intention for restoration.
Yeah, but we don't have a plan yet, so I'm not really in favor of touching anything that's currently within the enforcement order. But others might have a different feeling.
You can make the argument that this is actually going to provide shelter for small animals over the winter.
I was thinking that too, Ed, and then I started thinking what happens in the spring.
Well, then they get
Then we
to
have a conversation where we're removing habitat, like where we take care of this now, and we're not having a habitat conversation in the spring. Because that's where I assumed this was going.
Yeah, I'm just bothered by the fact that this all happened. You know, some 36 trees were cut down, and now we're being asked to wait for repairs until their nice fancy plan is put together of what they want to build and all this other stuff. And it just, I'm not saying that this was done on purpose, but it just doesn't feel right. I don't know.
Yeah, we just thought it'd be nice to have the restoration plan under an order of conditions versus just under enforcement order. It does create a better tracking mechanism for everybody in sense of having a DEP number with a COC eventually that kind of tracks everything, and that just felt like a better envelope. Again, we can submit a restoration plan earlier if you want, but it's not going to have the level of detail that you'd see if we waited a few more weeks to have it on an NOI plan. So that again, that's the kind of thing. Again, if we need to leave the logs there, Dwight's okay with that. He just thought it'd be good to get them out. It's wood that's either gonna be taken out now or later, and it's just gonna rot while it's left there, and that doesn't really feel to be a good use of the wood. Unfortunately, I know that it's too bad the trees are gone, but now I'm just thinking about getting the wood processed and having it have its next life span used better versus than letting it rot over the wintertime. So that's just again, we can talk. The trees could be removed later on this year too. So if we wait a few months, it may not be a big deal either. So we can have that discussion later on too. So at this point, we'll leave the logs in place. But we're hoping that we could just kind of, again, fold the restoration plan into a notice of intent. You'd actually have a notice of intent permit number with tracking and order of conditions with conditions about the restoration that would all be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. So you get a better kind of just overall encompassing. And I think for this property particularly, I think the commission it'd be nice to have this whole situation rolled into an order that's recorded at the registry for the record of posterity versus an enforcement order that sometimes can be forgotten about unless someone looks in the file.
You're talking the end of the year, basically.
I'm thinking we'd be filing in late in mid to late November, and for Thanksgiving at the end of November. Yeah, I mean it's somewhere around there. Again, we could submit a restoration plan and have a discussion about that early on. I just feel that it's kind of just stretching things out and resulting in more meetings than condensing things and making it more of an informal discussion on everything.
I can live with that as long as the enforcement order stays in place.
I would agree too. But circling back to the logs, Kyle, you did raise a very good point about if essentially if we leave these logs in place, we're going to be disrupting habitat likely in the spring. Do the board members have a strong feeling one way or the other about removing them at this point?
So are you saying, Andrew, that potentially we get a bunch of rain, a heavy snow winter, a bunch of rain? It might be a messier project to do than do it now while it's dry.
Yeah, and to Kyle's point, if there are animals, nesting in there, or they make that their home, we're really going to be disrupting them come spring. So, yeah.
I mean,
or even later in the year.
I guess I could agree.
Except for the one thing, though, that we're giving those animals somewhere to shelter for the winter. Even though they're going to lose their home in the spring, they may well move in the spring anyway. So it could probably go either way. You can make a case either way.
Yeah, I think if they're looking here for a shelter, they can find something 50 yards away in the woods that is just as sufficient as this.
I think I'd be more concerned. Now I'm starting to think about if it gets really wet. It could.
That's true. It's going to make a mess.
They're not going to come in and do anything with the logs with the ground's wet. That'd just be foolish. If the ground is frozen, on the other hand, now you've got a really solid place that you're not going to dig up. So, like I say, it can go either way for me.
Michael, how do you feel about it?
I don't really see a problem with moving them now. I mean, whatever's underneath them, a dead zone or not, isn't going to change at this point. And if they're going to be moved, whether it's now or in late November or next spring, it just seems like doing it when the field is dry is probably the best choice in my mind.
And Jim, did you have any thoughts on this?
No, thank you for asking, Andrew. I think the points made have been well made, and I don't have anything to add at this. No, thank you.
Of course. All right. So it sounds like the board is flexible in terms of moving the logs at this point. I suppose, does the board have any preference as to when they could do it? Just as soon as possible?
Probably as soon as possible, since we're still dry.
Yeah,
Just watch the
we said that's going to rain tomorrow, right?
Right.
Yeah, except for tomorrow. Yeah.
Can they just make sure they let Tim know when it's going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. What I would do is, we'll let Tim know when it's going to happen. We'll watch the weather for rain. He's very used to he's really used to watching the weather out there. And we'll also send photographs once the paw's removed for Tim to see what the conditions of the area is after it's removed.
That sounds great.
And I'll give Tim an update, ideally early next month in the first week of November, about where we are with the notice of intent, just to keep the commission up to speed on where we are with the notice of intent. And I'll push the engineers and surveyors along as fast as I can so we can get this before you.
Sounds like a plan. Is everybody
Sounds good.
okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
So we'll keep the active enforcement order in place, and we'll look forward to some updates through Tim at our next meeting.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you, Mark.
Good night, Mark.
All right. So we will go ahead and jump into our 7:45 p.m. Public hearing notice of intent. 19 Ipswich Drive, the demolition of an existing single-family dwelling and construction of a new single-family dwelling. We don't yet have a DEP file number for it, but is there anybody here to speak to this project? I see Scott Hayes in the gallery here. Scott, if you're here to speak to this, you are on mute.
Good evening. Are you waiting for me?
Good evening. Yes, please.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
As you added me as a panelist, I lost the last 30 seconds of audio. So, good evening. I'm Scott Hayes. I'm here from Foresight Engineering for 19 Ipswich Drive. It's a single family house on the lake off Goldsmith Street. I can let's start with some sharing here. So that's just a locus. I'm sure you're all familiar with Westchester Drive, Ipswich Drive off of Goldsmith Street. This is an existing single family house on about a half an acre that has just been purchased, and they're proposing to raise the house and build a new house in generally the same footprint. This is the site plan here. Shows everything. So we've got is in red here. This is the existing single-family house, the existing driveway in this area here, and in the pink is the proposed house and the proposed driveway. We've got bordering vegetated wetlands. These were delineated by Karen Environmental Consulting in August. Immediately, on the east and west property lines here in blue, and on the west side over here. So basically got wetlands on both sides of the developed site area. So when we went out and did the survey, we picked up the edge of the lawn, all the large overstory trees that were within the yard area have all been identified. And we did our best to preserve as many of those as we could. Got a septic system up here, kind of in the middle between the two buffer zone areas, and the lawn kind of falls around here, and then down through here. It's the existing lawn, and then there's a lightly wooded non-lawn area that between the edge of the BBW and the edge of the lawn. One of these trees over here on this side as well. So the site is about a half an acre. It's largely developed almost to the full extent of it, the exception of those small areas on the east and west sides. What we're proposing to do is remove the existing house, construct a new house and a new driveway, utilize the existing septic system, relocate the existing septic tank slightly. It's currently, septic tank is right here. We're just moving it slightly in the same general area just to meet code offset to the foundation wall in the back, and regrading the lot a little bit. We've got a very high water table out here, so really had to pick up the house quite a bit just to keep it out of the water table and keep things dry. We're at about 18 to 24 inches here and through all the test holes through the site. The water table is pretty consistently at about 24 inches from existing grade. So we're kind of a hard deck there for a basement floor level. Fortunately, this is a ranch type house. It's only a single story, so we'll elevate the slab a bit and not really create a mountainous house because it's only a single story with a shallow gable. So we're proposing to construct the dwelling here, add the driveway here, essentially the same location as it currently is. The house is slightly larger, and the driveway is a little bit wider to meet the garage doors here. And we've managed to, or we propose to put erosion controls around the limit of work, which is outside the 50-foot buffer zone and follows the edge of lawn across the back of the lot, and then just kind of follows the 50-foot buffer through the lawn area on the left and right sides. And we're proposing two sheds over here on the east side of the lot. This larger shed is proposed to remain, and the smaller shed is really in disrepair. They just want to remove that. We've also, I should note, within the buffer zone, there's 3 trees that are proposed to be removed. They're beyond the 50-foot zone, but within the 100. They're all right in this area here. It's 12-inch maple, 14-inch maple, and a 16-inch. That's 16-inch. Yeah, 16-inch maple here. So these 3 trees here are proposed to be removed, and we've proposed to plant 6 sugar maples on the perimeter of the yard area as mitigation for that. So we've got 3 proposed in this general area here along the edge of the lawn, and 3 on the eastern side, just inside the lawn area, just to beef up those buffers. That's what we're proposing to do, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Scott, do you happen to have any photos of the existing dwelling or any overlays of it?
I do.
Oh, lovely.
What would you like to see? I can just scroll through the photos, or this is the standing at the other side of Ipswich Drive facing the existing house.
Yeah, if you could run through them, I think that would be very helpful.
So this is just a little bit closer, the front of the house on the left-hand side where the existing, what's left of the deck is. You can see the lawn area, and there's some nice large like oaks and maples kind of that they've kept through the years. You can see as we go through the photos. Yeah, there's this big triple here that's fairly close to the edge of wet, right along the edge of the lawn. And then you got these 3 large trees. Those are all proposed to remain. This is the end view of the house. So we're just looking at the deck from the street. Now we're looking at it from the side. It kind of dips down here, and then goes the grade goes up behind the house. That's where the existing septic system is, up here. This is the rear of the house. The rear of the house again, basically standing. There's a manhole cover there for the I think that's for the D box. The septic tank is like over here. These are just they put boards over the D box for they had a Title V done, property sale. Haven't mowed the lawn in a while. So this is standing, looking back across it. So you're just to the east of the house, looking back to the driveway area. That car there is the pickup truck.
Is that the tree that's proposed to be removed?
That is one of the trees proposed to be removed. Yes.
Can you explain, I guess, what? All right, that would be the one in the corner of the house. So there's 2 in front of the shed. I guess we can't quite see that. Is that true?
Yeah, those are just off to the left of the photo. So you see that paneling there. That's those 2 other trees are basically supporting corners of this makeshift shed here. Maybe I've got a good picture of that. Let's keep going.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean that.
No, that's all right. I haven't looked at these since I took them in July. That's the good shed that is proposed to remain. There we go. So if you want to call that a shed, I mean, we called it a shed. It is, kind of 3 walls and a roof, but it's very, very makeshift. It's kind of attached to these trees.
Why are you taking the trees out?
Yeah, that's where I was going at, I guess.
Well, take the shed, sure. The garage, whatever you want to call it. But why do you feel a need to take the trees down? Those two and the other one you showed us by the
Well, the
driveway.
other one's in the building footprint. I understood the first one.
Oh,
These
is
two,
it actually?
these two
Okay,
don't.
these two then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one is in the building.
Okay. What, you don't want to have a tree going up through your living room?
Well, so
But the
yeah,
other two trees, they don't seem to be doing anyone any harm.
you know, our client asked that we could remove. He was going to remove the shed, and he asked that those be removed too. You know, the way that the site grading worked out, it lands right on the periphery of the work. So, I mean, other than, you know, kind of being in close proximity to the shed and the building, I mean, they look fairly healthy. Get back to the photos.
I would agree with the discussion. I'd try and keep those trees if possible.
Yeah.
Remove the
Yeah.
shed, leave the trees.
I mean, they appear to be in good health. I'm not an arborist, but you know, they have decent canopy, and they seem like
And they're not blocking access to the quote unquote good shed.
Well, no. Basically, excuse me. So we've got the erosion control line kind of coming up, like right to the face of the existing shed there. So, you know, we could bring that erosion control line up around trees. I mean, they aren't. It's not necessary to remove them for construction, and I wouldn't say that they were a hazard.
I'm
Really,
going to say just leave them.
yeah.
Did you say that new house was going to be on a slab?
It is. It's a slab, but it will be. There is a basement. It's just we're basically setting the slab at about 1 foot above the water table, and we're building up an 8-foot wall from there, and then a single story. So there's a small basement. A lot of the footprint is slab on grade. The garage, a portion of the rear. Of the rear elevation of the house is it is slab on grade, and it's about, I think there's maybe 600 square feet in the, see on the site plan, it shows those lines. So the proposed is in pink here. This dotted line is slab on grade. And the proposed garage on the right-hand side, that dotted line, that's slab on grade. So there's a full foundation at the lowest point of existing grade on the lot, which is kind of on the left-hand side here. So they get a small basement. I think it's about maybe 500 square feet. Just kind of to get some basic services, water heaters, kind of, you know, storage kind of stuff in the basement. But it's not. That's
The
not
current house has a basement also?
It has a crawl space. It's not much of a house. I mean, it's basically, you know, one of those surviving camps that has evolved over time. It's in very bad shape structurally. I mean, it's not something that can be rehabilitated, unfortunately.
But you did bring up a point just now, though. It's a surviving camp building, if you will, and you're proposing to put a real house here with all of the real activity that goes with a real house.
Well, that's been used as a real house for years.
Okay. Interesting.
And Scott, yeah, and Scott, did you have any other photos that you wanted to share with us before we dive into?
yeah. Let's see what else we've got.
You sound like someone excited to show something.
Well, you know, I took them a month, you know, in July. Yeah, back when it was still raining once in a while. So this is the back of looking back toward Ipswich Drive, and this is the structurally sound shed that they want to keep. And there's those two trees we were just discussing, and you see the house off in the distance here. This is the left-hand side. So all cleared and lawn, unmowed lawn up to a tree line over here. And then like that's the last one. That's the last one.
Thank you. That's actually very helpful to kind of get a glimpse of what we're looking at here. Does the board have any questions or comments for Scott?
Are there any drainage issues we need to think about on this that would drain into the 50-foot?
We're not really changing the drainage characteristics of the site. I mean, we're elevating it a little bit in the area of the dwelling, but the site currently drains to the east and to the west to the lower sides on either side of the dwelling currently. We're picking it up, 2 or maybe 3 feet of grade at the front of the building, and get back to the front of the building. So what we're going to do is we'll elevate the grade here, and then in the back of the house we're going to match that. It's already been elevated at the rear of the building for the septic system that was replaced 10 or 12 years ago. So we're kind of matching that rear yard grade and bringing that kind of forward, and then it'll slope slightly down toward the street. But everything generally drains and swales left and right, and not to the street or east and west, toward the wetlands. But we don't have a tremendous amount of grade here, so things move slowly. It's not really high erosion potential or high runoff potential.
Is the impervious space of the new house, the roof and what have you, about the same size as this one?
It's bigger. We've added a 2-car garage, so I think, I've anticipated this question too, sir.
You came prepared.
So the existing house is about 1,100 square feet, and the proposed house is about 1,600 square feet. So we're increasing the impervious cover by about 600 square feet.
I'm thinking about that one that we had earlier previously, where they were putting a porch over or cover over their raised deck, and we had a lot of conversations about water and where it goes and how it gets there and all that. So I'm wondering if any of that would come into play here.
Yeah, I mean, it all kind of drains over land nicely. It won't discharge to the street. And the lot itself, isn't terribly small for the lake. It's over half an acre, which is pretty good. But we've got, the challenge of the site is the water table. I mean, it doesn't provide a lot of opportunity to mitigate drainage. I mean, what could we reasonably do? Not very much. I mean, we could put like a crushed stone infiltration trench along the driveway, something, along the roof eaves, but we're not going to have, we're going to end up having infiltration that's probably in or at the seasonal high water level,
Is it going to be a paved driveway?
Yeah.
Does the street does Ipswich Drive, does it have sewers on it?
It does have catch basins. There's a drain. Where's my mouse? There you are. So to the right of this photo, I'd say maybe 150 feet, there's a pair of catch basins in Ipswich Drive, and that's up gradient from the lot. So it's going uphill towards Goldsmith Street.
Okay.
But there's also a culvert. There's I don't know if you call it an intermittent stream, but it's a channel, a drainage ditch, that a few hundred feet up the road there, where those catch basins discharge to. So it picks it up there. And then additionally, on the other side, there are another set of basins and another drainage ditch that run across the road, maybe 100 feet down to the left of the photo here. So there's drainage in the street, but the way the site drains, not going to drain to the street. It's going to
Right.
drain to the low areas to the east and west of the house on the lot.
It's pretty clear that they don't do anything with the lawn, or the previous people, I should say.
Well, it's been a
But
while.
presumably the new people will. So I'm just thinking fertilizer and all that getting into the somehow restricting that.
So it's gonna be
Difficult because if you
it's gonna
can't,
be difficult.
it won't be difficult to
and-
say you can't
and-
use it. It'll be difficult to enforce it though.
Right. Yeah. It's in the enforce it, and it's still within the. It's not. Still another 50 feet before it gets to the BBW.
Except
I think,
they're putting a lawn all the way out to it.
well, there's a lawn already.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you got to look on the bright side here. I mean, there's a lot of nice large trees that are being
there is.
maintained and preserved and not
Yeah.
altered. So we really tried to, crunch the footprint to stay out of the 50 foot and also to preserve a lot of those nice large trees.
Yeah.
And you scored two more tonight. So we're
No,
We appreciate that. Yeah.
yes, we will. And the neighbors will be happy to have the eyesore gone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It's all outside the 50.
It's Scott. I'm sorry, Ed. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask. So the existing system, is that being removed, and then the new system put essentially in that same vicinity? I know it's really tight back there.
No, that's staying. The existing leach field is to remain, and the only thing we need to do is relocate the septic tank at the rear of the building slightly to fit the footprint there.
Gotcha.
So
So you're gonna take-
the leach field is has an approved capacity, and they're limited to that, and we're not touching the septic system. other
So
than
you're going to
connecting
dig
it.
out the existing tank and
Well, I'm hoping we can hoist it, we could pump it and move it, because we're just moving it 10 feet and turning it 90 degrees. So I was really, no one wants to be responsible for moving those, and then if they leak, but it seems like a good opportunity to reuse something if they can.
Scott, with the new installation of the new septic tank and the high water table, is there going to be any proposed dewatering?
No, I don't think so. We're basically digging down to about the water table. I mean, maybe about a foot above or at the water table. The seasonal high right now, the water table is probably down quite low, but we shouldn't need to go any deeper than at or just above the water table. So I don't anticipate we need to dewater out here.
I
2
guess
feet is deep enough for a septic tank? That's
Well, the grade climbs back there, so that septic tank and pump chamber are in fill associated with the leach field that was built before. So those are already elevated. We're at 280,
okay.
283, 284. So we got water at 2.
Yeah, what was water at the test pit
If you
inside?
could read my tiny little script there, water's at 280.
I guess one of my worries of this, depending on when this is constructed, it wouldn't be that difficult to tap into that water and all of a sudden have a flooded site that you're working in.
Well, the deepest thing going in the ground is a septic tank, so and that
your basement.
the basement's at 281,
The
so
Basement's
the
at
basement's
281, right?
yeah, so it's a foot above estimated seasonal high water. I mean, that's basically how I started the design of the site. I looked at the water table. I'm like, we don't want to fight that. So can we build this up and have it not be, from an engineering design point and have it not look bad and work for the site. And I think we achieve that.
Excellent. Does the board have any other question or comment for Scott before we move on?
I do have one other quick question because I always forget what this is, but when it comes to impervious area and increasing, what's the number, the percentage before stormwater calculations become required? So I know Chase is usually the one that knows that number.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that that's not the case here. I don't think it is, but that might be something that we should check.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but I can look into that tomorrow. And if it does trigger that, I'll let Scott know, so he can make the appropriate revisions to meet that.
Yeah, I'd just have him take a peek at it now instead of the next meeting when Chase catches it.
I don't think we met.
We are adding a lot between the garage and the driveway, because what you showed in the pictures, the current driveway is not paved.
Right.
So from that perspective, percentage-wise of what's there now versus what's going in there, it's a somewhat large increase. I don't know relative to the whole lot, though.
I didn't think we met thresholds. I did review the bylaw regulations, but
that could very well be the case, Scott. I'm not saying that it does. I just would rather just bringing it up to just have somebody check on our end so that in 2 weeks or whatever you come back, it's not sprung on you.
So it's 1,000 square feet or 5% increase in impervious.
Yeah.
5% increase of impervious?
Yep. So all activities that result in a net increase of impervious within the buffer zone, and areas subject to protection of more than 1,000 square feet or 5%, whichever is less.
Well, you're adding the garage, you're adding the driveway, and the house looks wider than the previous one.
5% though of what? 5% of existing impervious or 5% of the lot area?
5% of existing impervious.
5% of this existing impervious would be a tremendously small number. I mean,
yeah, that sounds like a small number.
Sounds like Littleton.
Well, no, I mean, that's why I thought maybe it had to do with as a fraction of lot area as opposed to impervious cover, but we should look into that.
But I noticed your temporary soil stockpile area. Is that what you dig out to do the foundation and septic move? Or is that soil you're going to need to do things like the driveway and stuff? What is that?
Well, so they'll be crushing up this house and probably from an excavator to a container that's on a truck already. So there won't be construction material, but we will need to bring fill into the site to fill in the front yard a little bit, bring the grade up there. So we're talking about, granular soil or temporary stockpiling of topsoil.
Right.
I don't expect there's a ton of topsoil out here, maybe a foot.
Where are you fixing to stockpile other materials, the building materials? And so
we're going to stage in the driveway, the existing proposed driveway area. I mean, that's
okay.
I mean, it makes sense. The grade is very level there. There's already a driveway there. I mean, it's very accessible. Sure. And the shoulders the shoulders on Ipswich are pretty nice too. I mean, they're not, topsy turvy. The grade kind of comes right up to the back of the curb. So
the plan didn't show where you were going to stockpile. That's why I was asking. Other than the soil, you've got the soil stockpile, but it didn't talk about where you were going to put your construction materials and the like, which you just said you were going to put in the driveways. So.
Yeah.
Or existing gravel drive, I guess.
I was going to bring the stockpile up too, as far as protecting it when if it's raining or what have you, just to prevent it from washing around there.
Yeah.
Even though we area, I think we would want kind of a second row of erosion controls around the base of that stockpile, Scott. We don't typically we usually are required to move stockpile material outside of the 100-foot on any other projects. And I get that that's not really feasible here. But because of that, I think it requires some added control mechanisms. So even if it's kind of just a backwards C around the keeping everything up gradient, we're going to want to see additional controls.
There is actually a small section there outside the 100 where it could be moved.
Right. I just imagine that's where all of the access to the site is. That's where they're going to be going in.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's that. There's the electric telecom service running through there, and a substantial amount of. I mean, that's probably the most filled area.
Oh, yeah,
so like, how are you gonna stockpile land where you need to?
Yeah, the only reason I had
that's no surprise. It's the only spot available.
Yeah. I consider it a secondary erosion control. But the grade is it's so flat there. It was right kind of near where the erosion, the perimeter erosion control line was. So I didn't think we needed to do it. We can add in a secondary, down gradient.
It's flat, but if it rains,
like
your soil pile is going to spread.
Yeah, I've seen it. I know. I've been around the block.
Yeah, more than me, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, see, sites like this, you don't worry as much because you don't have steep slopes to, it's pretty flat out here. So water doesn't get away from you too bad. So it's the steep grades that get you. When those get stripped of soil, those can turn into problems real quick.
Just want to know, we do have a hand raised in the audience, so when you guys are ready.
Just gonna say.
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, Alicia D. Sorry to keep you waiting. Does anybody else have a comment or question before we go to Alicia? Perfect. If we could bring Alicia in, that would be fantastic. And Alicia, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question or make a comment.
Yeah, so I've just done that. This is actually Bill Morris at 28 Westchester Drive.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm Alicia's partner. So yeah, we live next door to the thing you have marked as wetlands. So when we've been looking at building a barn on the other side of those wetlands. So we've put some time into trying to understand what the keep house would be. And we did find a record of a meeting where they were not listed as wetlands; they were actually listed as something else. I've been trying to look for the document that we found. It's in the Littleton Town records. I've not been able to find it. You sure that they really should be described as wetlands?
So a delineation typically has to be redone every 3 years. The wetlands and resource areas do, move around. It's probably not the best terminology over time and evolve. And in terms of, wetlands on your side, you would, need to get that delineated to get a true sense of where, if any, where any boundaries would be. So, a document, from 10 years ago might accurately describe, conditions on the ground. And then again, it might not. Wetlands shrink and, expand
Right.
due to site conditions. But yeah. I hope that.
I just want to make sure that the restraints that you're putting on or the conditions you're putting on this building are correct for the land. So if you've done a recent survey and you do consider it wetlands, that's great. I just wanted to make sure that was accurate.
Absolutely. And as a part of this notice of intent, Scott and his firm did have to have a wetland scientist go out and, actually delineate the wetlands. So we should have a pretty solid bearing in terms of where those are out there.
Yeah, Scott, can you speak to that a little bit? And
Yeah,
where these are
sure.
connected and where things flow, so we can.
Well, I mean, we it's not our wheelhouse at Foresight Engineering, but we work with Karen Environmental Consulting a lot, Chuck Karen, and so we contact Chuck to come out, inspect the site for the presence of wetlands because it looked suspect to us when we did a walkthrough, and he came out and identified by soils and vegetation to wetland resource areas on east and west of the site as shown in blue here. In his report, Chuck is very thorough. Does visual inspection of the plant vegetation to determine the boundary, does soil borings, the DEP, BVW field data forms. He's very thorough. So we like Chuck. He does a good job. But as far as identifying what is a wetland under Massachusetts law and documenting that, I defer to his report, but this is, pretty clear.
To answer the question, the fellow who asked the question, these were delineated by wetland scientists. So you would have, like Andrew said, you'd have to have your own delineation done on your property to make the determination of where you can build.
Yeah, I think he just wants to make sure that he has the same. He's told the same thing that Mr. Hayes is being told, right? Like if he goes to build a barn.
Well, I mean, if it were me, I would start, if I were concerned about the presence of wetlands, I'd call up a wetland consultant and have them go out and flag it and identify things that are jurisdictional under the bylaw and the act, and and then you could see what you've got.
Right. Yeah.
Perfect. Bill, does that answer your question?
I'm afraid we did lose connection for about 10 seconds during Carl's comment, but I think I do have the gist of it. Yeah, so the key point that I understood is that has been recently assessed as wetlands and the borders established, and it does and you've your site around those new borders. So thank you very much.
Of course, and if you have any procedural questions, feel free to reach out, to our department, and happy to answer those for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to ask a question or give a comment? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, do we feel like a site walk is necessary for this particular project, or are we pretty comfortable with what we've seen?
I feel pretty comfortable with it.
I feel like we went on the sidewalk with Scott's photos. I think he did a pretty good job having that.
Beautifully done.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, and it's a fairly small lot overall. Large as it relates to the lake, though.
Yeah. About half an acre, we're probably disturbing about half of it, so about 10,000 square feet, maybe a quarter acre.
So Scott, if you could just revise the plan showing those two trees remain, that'd be great.
And the secondary erosion control around the stockpile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything else we've talked about as well. Yeah.
And explicitly call out the stockpile for building materials, because I'm sure Sarah will want to see that as well.
Just designate the construction staging material storage area, like in the proposed driveway area. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. And with that, we'll have you back on October 21st for our next meeting, and we'll go from there. And hopefully by then you'll have a DP file number.
Oh, they didn't issue the file number yet, huh? I forgot to check today.
And they no, they haven't issued one yet.
Yeah, I think there's enough of some changes to plans that we would hold off until our next meeting.
Okay. When's your next meeting?
Check in on the stormwater.
October 21st.
10/20. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and we'll see you on October 21st.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Scott.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Perfect. All right. We're running a little behind schedule, but we'll go ahead and open up our 8 p.m. Continued public hearing Notice of intent 87 Tehadawon Road, TEP file number 204-1027, construction of a two-family residence. Is there anybody here to speak to this project?
Brian Marchetti here with McCarty Engineering.
Good evening.
I couldn't see, but if there may be a Carolyn Reed as well.
Yes, we do have a Carolyn Reed in the audience.
If you could allow her in, I'd appreciate that.
Hello.
Good evening.
So, if I may begin.
Absolutely.
My name is Brian Marchetti with McCarty Engineering. Here tonight as well is Carolyn Reed. She's the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity, North Central Massachusetts. A little history on this, I guess all of this is, I was on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity myself for 10 years. My term just expired, so now as a civil engineer, we're helping Habitat out now with their engineering for properties moving forward. So this particular property was listed by the Littleton Affordable Housing Trust. They submitted an RFP that we responded to specifically to put a duplex, an affordable duplex on this property. This land was acquired by the Trust for Affordable Housing. It went to town meeting and was approved. So this past year, we responded to the RFP and we ended up winning, and the deed was transferred over to Habitat. Carolyn, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but back in July-ish, plus or minus. So we've basically responded to the RFP. We're proposing a duplex on the property as outlined in the Littleton Affordable Housing Trust proposal. And we are here today to show you how basically the whole site's going to fit together. As part of the RFP, Places Engineering, they did some due diligence up front. They did septic testing on the property, so they've located basically on the northern edge of the property where the only place suitable on the property for septic. So our plan, which if I could share my screen with you guys. Yeah. So the plan before you here reflects exactly that. So these symbols here are all the test pits and perk tests that were done on the property. So we've located the septic system as far north as possible on the property. And we've designed the septic with a Presby in order to minimize the footprint to the greatest extent practicable. You see this between the grading here of the septic system and the driveway, we've got a sizable area. However, this area, this is the approved septic plan. So this is where the reserve area that's required by Title V is going to fit. So keeping the reserve in consideration here, we moved the house as far forward to meet the required setback to the septic for the house, as well as the driveway as far north as possible. So we wouldn't be in the way or take over the area that's required for a septic reserve in the future if the septic system ever did fail. So that's what's reflected here on the plan that we filed with conservation. We are as far north as possible, as close to the street as possible, in order to fit the development, which again, as we described earlier, is a duplex development. We've got a 3-bedroom here on the south side and the 2-bedroom on this side with a carport. They both have accessible ramps long enough to get to the finished floor, first floor elevation from the driveways. Again, these are Habitat for Humanity homes, so they need to be designed to the latest stretch code, and they need to be designed to be accessible and meet all the ADA accessible standards that's required by the state. As part of the project, you can see here, these wetlands were delineated back in June by Three Oaks Environmental. The 50-foot buffer zone here, we've maintained all development outside of the 50. To fit the house, we have 5-to-1 grading on the south side here, which zooming in the plan, this is the extent of our grading. I did show 5 feet off of our limited disturbance on erosion control barrier, which is a hay bale and silt fence line, or not hay bale, I mean straw wattle silt fence line. We do show over here the detail for the wattle silt fence. So we're maintaining all the development outside of the 50, although I do show a piece of the silt fence here within the 50, but no development will be taking place within that 50-foot buffer zone. For stormwater, there's a total increase on the entire property of about 5,900 square feet, which equates to 8.6% on the overall property, which is a little over 1.5 acres in size. However, within the buffer zone, it's 1,900 square feet, which equates to only 2.7%. But we are still proposing a pea stone diaphragm here along the south edge of the driveway. So that's along the entire edge of the driveway here, as well as a dry well in the backyard, which is basically a 9x10 crushed stone envelope, which we show over here in the details, which were sized to handle the 1/2-inch water quality volume, which meets or exceeds what's required by DEP in the state as well. As you know, DEP doesn't require stormwater for single family or multifamily less than 5 or fewer units, but we're still providing that in order to provide a 1/2-inch water quality volume for stormwater here on site. Again, we're being served by an on-site septic system. Water is available within Tehadawon Road, so we'll be connecting with the municipal water service. The exact location in Tehadawon wasn't identified. However, it was verified with DPW. It's in the street. So again, wherever that water service connects, whether it's here within the 100-foot buffer zone or outside, it's all within our limit of impact and the limit of disturbance here. So there won't be any additional impact beyond what you see here on the plan. So I think, Carolyn, unless you have anything to add, that's basically the presentation of what we're proposing here. And if the board has any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Brian. All right. One quick question for you, Brian. The area across the street, were there any resource areas identified or any buffer zones that were identified and kind of scoping out the site? I do know it's like right in back of the lake.
No, there were not. Our wetland scientist did walk the roadway and she did not identify anything within 100 feet of basically our limited disturbance.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Nobody else is going to jump in. I think it's the obvious one. If anybody looked at the aerial, this looks like a completely wooded site to me. Yeah, and if you heard anything that we just talked about with our last hearing, that we are really trying to avoid clear cutting all these properties that we have in town, to at least to what we can control, right? And I totally appreciate the purpose of the project and where you're coming from with that side. We still have an interest to look out for in our town as well. Yep. So can you describe what the existing vegetation area comprises of?
I mean, it's a wooded site. I don't have a breakdown of exactly what's out there for vegetation.
Do you have a plan for the trees you're going to cut down and how you'll remediate them?
We do not. We basically, what's required here for the septic system, pretty much, if I guess I can draw a line on the plan, what's to be left on the site is basically just what's south of this line. and you know, potentially what's here up in the front yard, we could have some area left for trees, and along the back here, you know, so everything here within the septic system, between the septic system and the house, to facilitate grading, the force main in the house up to our erosion control line here would have to be cleared.
So we're gonna have, before we can move on this, we're gonna have to see, you have to identify all the trees on the property, that are gonna be removed by species and size.
What's required in town, I guess, over what caliper, what size tree has to be identified?
Tim, do you know?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask if anybody remembered what that number was. If it was
I don't know if
4
it
or
was-
6.
I believe, yeah, I think you're right.
Was
Kyle,
it 5 inches
above.
or?
I think it's
About
6
what?
inches above.
Yeah, 6 was what was in my head. Just another
The
note
other
that
thing
we
that's
really need
not
to
on
work
the
on.
plan, is where you're gonna put your stockpile, your construction materials and, the dirt you're gonna dig out and what have you, that's not here anywhere.
So our
I would
plan
imagine that would be-
generally is if we can put a basement, we do it. If not, we do slab on grade. And we don't stockpile a whole lot of construction materials. We bring them in as needed, and I would expect it would be in the driveway portion.
Yeah, we can certainly add a note to that effect. There's no reason we can't stockpile anything on this side here where the reserve area is in the future. So, and that'll at least be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yep.
And I would imagine we probably want to do a site walk out here as well. But we can kind of circle back to that after our Q&A here.
Brian, one question. Has this been in front of the zoning board of appeals?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're on the agenda, I believe, either next week or in 2 weeks.
Next Thursday.
But it has Board of Health approval
Yes,
for the Presley. Okay.
it does. And like I said, that septic's been minimized to the maximum extent we can, based on Title V. Yeah, and just for everybody's understanding, the project went out by the town as a duplex. That's what was required in the RFP. That's what we're proposing. However, in the our district, multifamily is not allowed without zoning board approval. So we're proposing, or we filed with them for variance to allow the duplex. If by chance it's denied, there's the state law now allows accessory dwelling units, the ADU. The smallest unit we have here is 1,000 square feet. The ADU requires 900 square feet. So we can legally, by state law, do the same thing by separating the building. And instead of 1,000 square feet on one side, it could be 900 square feet. So looking at the plan scope-wise, regardless of the outcome of ZBA, you're basically looking at the same plan with minor modifications, but there'll be no additional increase to the impact within the buffer zone.
Yeah, but overall, much more disturbance to the site. Right.
Well, overall, there won't be any more disturbance, regardless of the outcome of ZBA.
Okay.
It's a small footprint. I mean, these are not. Yeah. It's a very small house. It's one side, I believe, is 1,000 square feet. The other one's 1,200 square feet. So you're looking at a 2,200 square foot.
The other thing we're going to need on the plan is going to be color coded according to the town bylaw.
Okay. And that's buffer zone lines, wetland.
Yeah.
If you end up going with an alternate dwelling unit, does that affect, this is more curiosity than anything else. Does that affect the ownership ability? Does it, with a duplex, theoretically, two people can own, one each half. With an ADU, does that still apply?
What EOHLC has said is that the law doesn't specify whether it's ownership.
Of course it doesn't.
That they have been vague on purpose.
Okay. Because I'm assuming you're selling both halves.
We do home ownership. We don't do rental.
Right.
Can these houses that Humanity built, can they be sold by the owner, or they have to go back through?
Not at market rate. So they are deed restricted in perpetuity. And we, the town and us, will be listed as agents for resale.
Okay.
And the one time we've had to do it, it has gone to someone else. It came back to us. We did family selection again and went to another family earning less than 60%.
That would be my assumption.
Yep. Yeah, in the early days, EOHLC had shorter deed restrictions, but right now it's in perpetuity.
And the maintenance of the septic and things like that, you pick people that can manage that, I assume.
Yeah, so we qualify them based on 3 criteria. And one of them is willingness to partner. And that means the ability to maintain a house.
Okay.
And we do, when we set up their mortgage, we do set up a joint account that they both have to pay into for the eventual need to replace a roof, do something with the septic, get the septic pumped periodically.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other questions from the board members? I'm sorry, did I just interrupt somebody?
No, that's fine. I was just going to add that DEP did not have any comments.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And we did have to continue for a month and a half because of no file number, but we finally do have one.
Oh, perfect. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions? I do see a couple of people, but I don't see any hands.
And I would like to add the process to get to this point. Carolyn's been in front of the town multiple times. She did have an opportunity to meet with neighbors. Neighbors made comments, asked questions, asked us to move the house, shift it closer to the street. So we've done all those things to this point. So we have worked with the neighborhood to get to the point where we're at right now.
Excellent. So did we want to go ahead and set a site visit up for the property? Brian, is there a particular time of day that you'd be available to go out and walk with the board members and Tim?
Whenever the board members can make it, they've got the harder schedules to meet. I do this for a living, so usually I'm in the world, and we can meet you out there. And I'll make sure when we do meet the wetland consultants with us.
Perfect. What's the pleasure of the board for a site walk? Did we want to get something done this week or the next prior to the 21st? It started a little earlier now.
Yes, it does.
Would something after work for people around like maybe 5 o'clock?
I can do 5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 works for me too.
Perfect. Kyle, would that work for you?
It'll depend on the day, so don't don't go around me at 5 o'clock works for other folks. Go with it.
Let's see. Brian, how soon would you be able to have the corners of the house, the driveway, the septic, stockpile areas staked out for us? Would that take a couple of days?
You want it staked out in the field?
That would be great.
I would say, to be safe, if you could give us a week.
Okay, absolutely.
If it's sooner, if you guys can only meet sooner, then I'll beg and plead with the surveyor, but
yeah,
everybody's super busy these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Would the 15th or the 16th, next Wednesday or Thursday at 5 o'clock work for you guys?
Is that enough time for Brian? You said you needed at least a week.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep. So the 16th, yeah, the 16th is our ZBA meeting. So if we could do it the 15th, that would be preferable.
Excellent. How does
Yeah,
that?
that works for me.
I'm just checking right now.
Yeah, I should be fine with that, Andrew.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I can do the 15th.
Kyle, does that work for you?
I will do my best. Unlikely, but I'll see if I can move something around.
Perfect.
But
Thank
with
you.
enough bodies there, I obviously trust you guys with the folks that are there.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like 5 o'clock on Wednesday the 15th it is, and we'll go from there.
Andrew, can I just one more
Oh,
thing?
yeah,
It's kind of procedural for you, Brian. It sounded like you made a comment that you waited to come in front of us until you had your DEP number. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So I think if you were watching earlier, I would say don't do that in the future if you can, obviously, right? If you just come in front of us and lay out an idea what you're going through the process with DEP. I mean, we could have scheduled this site walk maybe a couple weeks ago,
Okay.
and not held you up, right? So just in future, if you're working in town, we have no problem hearing your project beforehand as just a general discussion or public hearing, and then.
Okay.
That way, if we have comments in the meantime, you can be working on those while we're waiting for the DEP number, and now we're not holding you up another 2 weeks, at
Yep,
least.
understood. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So we will go ahead and put you on for our next meeting, October 21st. Tim can confirm the time soon. But yeah, it sounds like we'll have the site walk next week, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Perfect. Well,
Thanks,
thank you
man.
so much, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Well, actually, we'll see you in 1 week, and then again in a
All right,
couple
great.
weeks.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.
Perfect. All right. So we will go ahead and we are running a little behind tonight. We'll go ahead and jump into our 8:15 p.m. continued public hearing, notice of intent, 64 Beaverbrook Road, Lot 1, DEP file number 204-1018, construction of a shared driveway. And before we actually begin, Tim recently pointed out to me that I've missed two hearings for this particular project. So I will have to step aside for this hearing and the one following for Lot 3. So would somebody else be willing to jump in and run the hearing while I hide in the shadows?
Well, if no one else will, I guess I can do it.
Thank you, Ed.
So, all right. Then in that case, opening the hearing for notice of intent, 64 Beaverbrook Road, Lot 1, DEP 1, number 204-1018. And is there someone to speak to this?
I believe you can open the next one also, since the time has passed, and they could be talking about simultaneously.
Sounds good to me. And we're also opening the notice of intent, 64 Beaverbrook Road, Lot 3, DEP number 204-1019.
Good evening, Commission members. This is Seth Donahoe with Dilson Roy.
Hello.
Hello. So I am here tonight to discuss the project. I have been on this site multiple times, and I'm aware of your past discussions related to this. So as you mentioned, this is for two projects. I assume it's okay with the commission that I discuss them both simultaneously at this point?
Yeah.
Great. So I will share our screen, if that's okay, and give you a brief overview of what's being proposed and some of the documents that have been submitted since your last discussion related to that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Great. So hopefully what's before you is a color-coded overview of the property.
Mm-hmm.
We have yellow lines, which represent solid yellow line being the 100-foot buffer zone. dashed yellow being the 50-foot buffer zone, blue being the edge of the wetland resource area, green in this case is the existing limit of clearing, and then these are proposed limit of clearings in the rear, and orange is snow storage area. And this project's unique in that it is a driveway crossing to access upland lots, which are A&R lots, and that requires a small wetland crossing. That's in the narrowest point of the wetland right here. And the red is a replication area. That's exceeding your local requirement of a 3-to-1 ratio of replication. And I'll get into details on that as well. So since your last meeting, our office has submitted several documents to you. They included a cover letter indicating some of the revisions to the plans that are before you, as well as some additional details related to the waiver request. That waiver request is part of our wetland crossing, as we have no way to access the upland area of this owner without doing a wetland crossing. Again, that wetland bisects the entirety of this property. It goes from a south to north area here. We've also submitted a tabulation of trees that will be removed by the proposed driveway, as well as a mitigation plan associated with that. I can get extremely granular on any of those individual items. I trust the commission members have had a chance to review those, and I can pop them on my screen and go one by one. Or if you feel there's something that I should dive into first, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Why don't we go one by one of the changes?
One by one, great. So we've presented a summary letter, so that's dated September 29th. Specifically, we have enlarged and shown snow storage areas entirely outside the 100-foot buffer zone. They're substantial sizes and they're in appropriate locations to allow the stockpiling of the snow. I'm going to switch screens on you quick. Those are the orange highlighted areas. And I'll give you an idea of the ratio on that. There's over 4,000 square feet of footprint of snow storage area. That's not cubic feet, so there'd be a substantial area to pile the snow here. The driveway that's associated with this plowing is just under 10,000 square feet before you get to the individual driveways. So this is about a 50% ratio of the surface area, which is sufficient for storing snow for most of our storm events. I'm going to switch back to the letter briefly. We've supplemented some tree removal details and tree removal exhibits. I think it'll be more appropriate to dive into that with those individual sheets, which I'll put on my screen shortly.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that the commission has concerns regarding the utilization of fertilizer, particularly in lawn areas. And if there's a standard condition of the commission via an order of conditions to restrict or prohibit that use, I don't think there would be any objections to that. Certainly your prerogative, and I understand that that's consistent with other lawns located throughout town at this point. Waiver request, we have submitted that, and I can get into that in more detail as we get to that specific page of the documents. We've provided a full waiver request letter that goes through documenting the compliance of the waiver of reasons. Again, this is upland access to upland of the same owner, and this is the only place to access it on the property. And we're going through the skinniest portion of the resource area in this case. I can get into a lot of detail on that, or perhaps it'll be more appropriate as we go through the plans. I think you guys may have some questions, or we may have some back and forth on a couple items. So if it's all right with the commission, I'll move my next tab and get into some of the tree removal items.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. So we've prepared a tabulation of the trees that will be impacted by this driveway removal, or the driveway's construction. There's a full tabulation of the species and the caliper for these, and the tree removals are the actual red highlighted ones in this case. And that's also supplemented with a tree mitigation plan that's showing all of our buffer zone plantings in this case. We have 6,821 square feet of buffer zone being enhanced through this plan that consists of planting of 30 trees and 60 shrubs. That does not count the wetland replication area. Again, that's a 3-to-1 wetland replication area. That's detailed on this plan, as well as the notice of intent plans that were submitted to you. So our actual wetland impact to provide this crossing is limited to 306 square feet. We're exceeding the 3-to-1 ratio, going over 1,000 square feet of wetland replication, and that's within this low spot here. That's a mix of facultative, fac wet, and obligate plantings, as well as supplemental seed mix. Supplemental seed mix is also proposed throughout the planting area along the fringe of the property. I will note, as I mentioned, I've been on the site several times. Some of the wooded areas are fairly sparse. There are some larger pine trees, but there's also some shrub vegetation that's frankly not doing that well. So overall, this will provide a significant improvement to the vegetative buffer at the site. We have the formal notice of intent plans. They've been revised to incorporate all of these details, typical construction details, as well as erosion and sedimentation control notes. This project, coinciding with this application, is also going through a stormwater review process. We've met the technical requirements of that. The project is in full compliance with DEP stormwater standards, so that'll be mitigating for all storm events up to and including the 100-year storm. And it also includes the required sediment removal within all the structures and the general performance standards that go along with those. Those are the documents that have been resubmitted to the board. I'd be happy to address any questions at this time, and I can flip back to any particular screen that the commission finds would be helpful for this conversation.
Commissioners, anyone have any comments, questions? Yes, no?
It seems like that covers the things that we spoke about last.
Yeah. Okay. Then
So can you walk me through a little bit more of the reasoning, the justification of the waiver? So I guess what I'm taking out of it, what it says a net environment improvement. Can you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some wetland replication, is that the net?
Well, there's two sides to that. So in your waiver requirements, one of them is very specific in that it says that to avoid a take, and that would mean a regulatory taking, where in this case, these are A&R lots, and the site would not have another means to access this. So by that stance, the regulations would essentially preclude the value of those lots. That's something that DEP recognized in the Wetlands Protection Act and normally raises to a limited project. And that would be triggered when we do more than 5,000 square feet of wetland alteration. That's not the case here. We're well below that at 300 feet and change here. So we don't rise to the limited project threshold in this case. Certainly, it could qualify as a limited project on the local level if it was to say that they could not access their upland. That aside, I feel that we've done a very good job of documenting what's there and providing improvements, and this will be a direct answer to your question. I'm going to switch to the tree mitigation plan that was prepared. It's an extensive area paralleling the entirety of the development area, and these are all native species that are specified throughout here: white oak, swamp white oak, red maple, high bush blueberry, red osier dogwood, sweet pepper bush, as well as New England wetland plant seed mix throughout the area. As somebody that's been on the site a couple times, it is a very, I call it bland woods. There's some larger white pines that are probably coming to the end of their life at this point. There's some understory birch that frankly look like they may have transported themselves when the abutting property was developed many years ago. So this will provide an enhanced buffer zone, essentially. We're going to have thicker native vegetation in the area, as well as an understory that's essentially lacking at the site at this point. And that's exceeding 6,000 square feet in planting area just for the buffer zone restoration plantings, which follow the entirety of the limit of the project area. A substantial portion of this project, actually 15% of the trees that are going to be removed in this case, they're required to be removed for the stormwater management areas. So as the commission knows, the stormwater management thresholds would normally not be triggered by this project. DEP says it has to be 4 dwellings or more, actually 5 dwellings, 4 dwellings or less are exempt. The town has applied that standard to lesser developments. We take no objections to that. We've designed it in full compliance with that. But I want to point out that some of these alterations are a byproduct of reaching that level of compliance as well. So that is also incorporated in our mitigation as well. One of the things to note with the wetland itself, it's essentially a scoured channel within a area that's tributary from an adjacent stormwater outfall. And that area is subject to eroding. So by putting in this case, we're proposing a 3-sided culvert with precast wing walls. It'll provide for some permanent stabilization. The channel itself is subject to erosion right now. That'll be remedied by putting this in place as well. So between the actual construction activities that result in that stabilization and the extensive planting proposed, I feel that we've reached a level of compliance that on a personal level, I think it would be worth granting the waiver on this.
Thanks. I have a quick follow-up question just because you mentioned the tributary, the channel. So I'm all for stabilizing things and I understand how the wing walls work and that's part of that. Now, does this raise any concern of other scour? Are we increasing flows through there, or are flows high enough that, scour is a concern with the new construction of this?
So it's a great question. It's been dry almost every time that I've been at the site, actually. It's sandy, gravelly material that's been transported. In addressing DEP's comments, it does have channelized flow, and therefore we have to meet stream crossing standards. And that's where this rose. Originally, it was proposed as a simple piped culvert. Now it's an open bottom culvert. We're not increasing that flow by any means. We're certainly not intercepting it as well. We're just stabilizing the banks and allowing it to go where it's naturally going at this point. To call it a natural channel, that's an argument for probably years before any of us were born at this point. I'm not sure when that project was developed. They did things differently there, but it exists now. We're respecting it, and we've identified it as part of the resource area.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments?
Well, I'm still a little bit concerned with making the crossing to access additional lots. I'm just trying to make sure that we're consistent with how we make our evaluations. Because there have been other projects that have come up that have wanted to cross stream crossings to access other building lots, and we haven't supported them.
Are you asking for justification from me, or are you fielding a general question?
General question.
So Carl, you're saying that this particular project, because of the stream crossing, and because it requires a waiver, that it shouldn't move forward?
I'm just want to make sure that we had the complete discussion, that we're being consistent in our determinations.
So, Carl, I actually spoke with Amy last week about just stream crossings in general and the history of those since the bylaw was enacted, and to her knowledge, none had been permitted since the bylaw was enacted.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I think the other side of that is, how many have we seen? One other one that I can think of on the top of my head, and that had its own issues other than just the stream crossing. I can't think of another one that we turned away. And I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not pro or con yet at this point, but
yeah,
because I do agree with you, Carl, and we always use that word precedent, and I don't like using that word because I think I look at every project very differently. You know, it's its own project, and I understand we have our bylaws and the WPA.
We just, yeah, but we can't make a decision one way and then tell someone else they can't. That's all.
Nope. And if I do feel that way, I would have I feel like I would have a valid justification on why we allowed it one place and didn't allow it in a separate place, right? It wouldn't.
Right.
I agree. I wouldn't say. I feel like I can't say we didn't allow it there, so we can't allow it here.
Right.
That's not how I.
Right.
That's not how I look at this at all.
I understand.
Looking at this project, though, they originally were putting a pipe, and we argued against that, and I was strongly against a pipe. But now it seems like with the concrete bridge, for lack of another term, I guess, is it really affecting the stream crossing now? I mean, I think the paved driveway is affecting things way more than just crossing the stream. I mean, you know, if you look at that, it's essentially a dead zone, a lot of dead zone, because it goes a long way. You know, where animals could get through and now can't, or might not.
If I could add some commentary to that, this is a 3-sided box culvert that's essentially being dropped in place on this. In simple terms, it is a bridge.
It's a bridge. Basically, it's a bridge. So
Correct.
we did. The board probably remembers this. To access the land that I used to call the island. Everybody knows that piece of land.
As pre-bylaw.
You're talking the Moat House?
No, this may have been before your time. It was a piece of land that you had to, the only way it could be accessed was across this waterway. And we did allow similar to what the engineer just explained, a big box culvert to go in there and have cars could travel over that.
Carl, is that the one where the stream is located pretty close to the road or the front of the driveway?
You're talking
also pre-bylaw, isn't it?
I believe that was pre-bylaw.
It was pre-bylaw. That's the big
That was
difference.
pre-bylaw. Okay, all right.
That was just before I joined, Carl, and I joined right
That was
around.
pre-bylaw. Okay, all right.
You're talking the one over by the Road 2 ramp?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that house.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're thinking, Yep, that's fine.
So what does that mean? That was pre-bylaw. Are we saying that post-bylaw we would not / should not?
Probably not. No, we probably wouldn't, because we really struggled with that.
Mm-hmm.
We struggled with, we struggled a long time before we allowed that to happen.
That being the case, how is this project any different then? Because it seems like they're putting the same thing in, aren't they?
That site is very different than this site.
Well, no, it's right down across the street from my house. I know the site.
Right. So it has nothing to do, like it is not even close to apples to oranges. It's apples to a vegetable. I mean, that is in the middle of a wetland area.
I was just trying to think out loud of areas that we've, allowed stream crossings. That's all. That's the only reason I even brought it up.
No, and the reason I was asking if it was the same as, I know the lots are different, but the crossing of the water essentially is similar, but yeah, I know that property very well.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that property too from many years ago. I believe they have riparian zone on that. That was a perennial stream in that particular case. If it's not, there's a huge difference in the culverts that is being proposed here too. I can physically jump across this crossing in its current condition. I cannot jump far. Far beyond that at this point.
That's my point, right? The resource area we're talking about here is very different than that resource area over there.
Yeah.
We're taking in a prefabricated structure that is 6 feet wide to fully span this area. That's our impact right there. This is not it could be done with a pipe easily, dug up the bottom, put a pipe in place. As a result of this process, it's being basically spanned something dropped in place that's suitable for vehicles to travel over. The other huge difference here, this project is reaching compliance with DEP stormwater standards. The runoff from the driveway is being collected and treated. That's something that would not have happened years ago. That's something that's come into play in bringing things into compliance with your bylaw. So there's a substantial level of compliance that does not exist on this site, nor did it exist on similar projects years ago as well. And to that end, it's expensive for the applicant to bring that in, and it's a much higher standard than most single family homes are developed to. So they're already achieving that level, and it's a pretty small crossing in this case.
So how does the commission feel about this conversation and the project as a whole? And Tim, I'm not sure what the next step is.
Yeah, I mean, next up is, I imagine that Mr. Johnny would like us to close, vote it's one way or another. And I was really just waiting from the last hearing, was waiting on just a clarification on the replicate, or not the replication, but the mitigation planning, the tree species types. I think that was what was the big lacking point for me. And again, Tim, there you come again. I always said, look to you guys. I'm not any sort of specialist when it comes to tree species, but those seem like natives that we would advocate for in the area.
So how does the commission feel? Are we prepared to approve this project? And if so, is someone going to make a motion?
If you guys are ready to vote, I will gladly make a motion. I think the folks at Dose and Roy have met my concerns. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 64 Beaverbrook Road, Lot 1 and Lot 3. DEP file numbers 204-1018 and 204-1019 with the waiver as submitted.
Second, is there a second?
I'll second as well.
All right, roll call vote. Andrew, are you able to do the roll call vote?
So technically, I should just remain in the shadows.
Okay, not a problem.
Keep going the way you're going.
You'll have to record it though, so. All right, Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Michael Livingston.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle Melberg.
Kyle Melberg, aye.
And Ed Foltz, aye. It looks like it's unanimous. So
with
I just want to make sure real quick, Tim, everybody else had been to all these meetings. I know other folks had missed a meeting here or there, right? The four of us, we only have four that can vote, and we are all able to vote.
Yes, all four of you are able to vote. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Andrew, you had a comment?
Oh, sorry, Ed. Yeah, I was just going to say with one recusal.
Oh, sorry. Yes, with one recusal. Well, Mr. Donahoe, best of luck with your project.
Thank you. We appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll be back before you for something else in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and with that, Andrew, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Ed. Beautiful job.
My first one.
Did good. So actually, I think that's our last item of the night. Tim, was there anything else?
Two things real quick.
Sure.
And one was, I don't know if if everybody heard it, because I talked about it before the meeting had opened. But just, we did some work to remove the graffiti that was up at Lookout Rock at Oak Hill this morning. And that area that we removed it at, we used chemicals. So the area is flagged off, and there is a sign that we made and posted on the tree, notifying everybody that, chemicals were used to remove graffiti. Stay out of this area. I don't anticipate on having that there for too long. Depending on how much rain we get tomorrow, it might be good after tomorrow. But just wanted to inform everybody. The other thing was, and I know it was mentioned at the last meeting, where we just mentioned how we were going to be submitting NOIs for boardwalks at Webster Woods. We talked about a site walk to go over the proposed trail system out there that Jim was kind enough to map out. So I didn't know if you guys wanted to schedule that now or if you wanted to schedule that at some point offline.
That would be great, actually, to get the ball moving. And just a quick side note on that too, Tim. If you want to pursue CPA funding at any point for any of the trail work or the boardwalks, we can certainly work to get something together too for the Springtown meeting. I don't know if we want to wait that long, depending on the project timeline, but
I don't think they're going to be doing boardwalks over the winter, so spring would be about the time when they're going to be kicking off. It seems reasonable. It's a great idea, I think.
Yeah. Tim, did the bees that you treated, are they gone?
I know for a fact the ones at Oak Hill are gone, or at least last time I went out there, they were gone. I don't believe they've come back. The nest that I treated on the trail going from Wellington to Great Road behind, is it Cooper Farm? That one was not successful last time I checked. And I figured it would probably just be best. I don't think an initial treatment would really do anything. That one's different from the other one. The Oak Hill one was a ground nest. I sprayed that one twice and it did the job. This one is a, for lack of better terms, above ground nest, right? It's probably the size like a soccer ball sitting in some brush. And it's very difficult to get close to spray. Like I was very nervous spraying it the first time. Sprayed it and ran. And I just, if it didn't work that time, I felt like I got it pretty good. I didn't think it was going to work if I got it a second time either. So I figured just let that one take its course through the fall, and after that, hopefully it'll be, I don't know if vacant's the right word, but dormant after the winter, right?
Cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking care of all these things. Oak Hill is just a target for vandalism and vicious creatures.
It definitely gets a fair share of activity. We'll say that.
And fires too.
And fires. Oof.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent.
And answer to your question though, Tim, about the site walk, it doesn't sound like anybody's looking to set one up tonight.
Yeah, perhaps we could do that offline, Tim.
That's fine.
Excellent. All right. Is there anything else before we close out?
Not for me.
All right. With that, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. It's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Final roll call of the night. Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Carl.
Tom Albert, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Great meeting, everyone. Have a great night.
Good job, Ed.